This is the Joe Mullins Show, showcasing the vibrant spirit of Florida and America's innovative creators. This is the place for captivating conversations, inspiring guests, and industry professionals celebrating the best place in the world to live, shop, work, and play. And now, your host, County Commissioner, entrepreneur, and freedom advocate, Joe Mullins.
Hello, Florida. This is Joe Mullins of the Live, Work, Shop, Play Show, and what an amazing weekend in the greatest state in the greatest country in the world. Florida is the biggest example for all 49 states how to live, work, shop, and play the American way. With me today, I've got an amazing guest. I have got Florida's Lieutenant Governor Collins. Welcome to the show.
Joe, thank you for having me on, man. So excited to be here and looking forward to chatting with you a little bit today.
Well, it's an honor, and I have heard the buzz all over the state, how exciting. You know, I've heard great things about our former lieutenant governor, but everyone is saying now that we have got a lieutenant governor that is really feet on the ground, going at it 100 miles an hour. You've been in areas like Jacksonville, which we air in there. You've been all over Jacksonville talking and working with people up there, talking to local businesses. You've been all through Daytona, Flagler, which we air in that area, St. John's, Orlando. Orlando, you guys have had some battles in, but I predict very soon Orlando is going to flip and be a red county. Just like Miami did. People said Miami never would flip. Miami is now a red county, is it not?
I know. It's amazing. This has been a constant evolution of our state, right? When Ron DeSantis was elected, we were blue, going back and forth, blue, purple, blue, purple. It was the ultimate toss-up state. We have a 1.4 million voter advantage. Why is that? Because we've pushed good policy. We've said what we mean what we say, and we've gotten things done and followed up with actions. It's about deeds, not words. Governor DeSantis is the GOAT, in my opinion, an amazing governor, an amazing leader. He's straightforward, follows up, and gives you task, condition, standard. But that's how you do it. They said Miami-Dade wouldn't flip. They said Hillsborough couldn't flip. Both did.
They both are. And here we are in our studios in Tampa, and you see the benefits of a conservative community. I've had people all through here come on the show after the storm saying how much better the government is in helping them with FEMA and helping go through things. This is so important for a town like Tampa, Sarasota, where we air as well. Yep. Sarasota being so important. So the listeners really, they love what's happening. But let's introduce them to Lieutenant Governor Collins. Let's talk a little bit. Let's hear some of your background and what got you into this.
Well, you got it, Joe. I appreciate it. So, I was adopted by my grandparents. I was born to a 16-year-old kid who just wasn't ready to be an adult. They gave me the opportunity. So when we talk about being pro-life and making a difference, I believe it's pro-life all the way through. My family gave me an opportunity because they adopted me and brought me in. It's incredibly important to me to also talk about that. I joined the military after a couple of years in college. I joined to become an intelligence analyst. Now, I thought I was going to be James Bond. That was not actually the case. I lived in a building with no windows, buried deep in the ground. Eventually, I kept volunteering. It led me to airborne school in 9/11. So I was actually loaded up in a plane, getting ready to jump for the second time out of an airplane when the towers were hit. I found out about 8 hours after the fact what had gone down when we finally got back to the barracks. And my wife, we had just gotten married, was living in D.C. We knew we were going from a world of peace to a world of war. It wasn't if, it was when. We're going to be in that two-way fighting range. None of us thought it was going to be 2 decades of our lives. None of us. But I kept volunteering. Eventually, I got to become a Green Beret. Spent 18 of my 23 years, actually, as a Green Beret. Good Lord, I feel old, man. Wow. Just saying the numbers sometimes, right? It was amazing. Got to have a few opportunities. I got shot, which is pretty overrated. I did surgery on myself in Afghanistan. Wow. I got hit by a mortar, broke my back, ended up leading to the loss of my left leg, which I requalified as a Green Beret after losing my leg, served about 5 additional years. And then I got in the nonprofit sector where we fed millions of people with Operation Barbecue Relief around the state after natural disasters, to include, I think, 1.65 million after Helene and Milton over the last hurricanes here. And then I got into politics, where I was a state senator in Hillsborough County. And then over the last 50-some days, Governor DeSantis gave me this amazing opportunity to serve our entire state as the 21st lieutenant governor in the state of Florida. And for a kid who grew up in a trailer, adopted by my grandparents, only in America is a story like mine possible. Frankly, it sounds like a bad Hallmark movie, but it's all fact. And man, I wouldn't trade a single thing that I've been through because it got me here today. And, we got to make things better than we got it, right?
Your story reminds me so much of one of our great governors and our current senator, Senator Scott.
That's right.
You hear about these, and he continually goes around and says, this is the American dream. You don't fall down, you get back up.
Right.
You don't fall down and stay down. You get back up and you keep going and keep moving. You've gone through a lot. I've got a curious question I'd love to ask you. I met you. You never can tell this. I know you personally. You never can tell this stuff had happened. This is the first time I've heard these things. How do you keep that in such a positive manner to go through that when most people would go through a quarter of that and their attitude and their mental health would be horrible?
I think it's perspective. When I was in Walter Reed, and frankly, I felt sorry for myself when I lost my leg a little bit, right? I had a hurt feelings report to go file and put it into the docs. And I saw people with no legs and no arms moving themselves around, still putting a smile on their face. I saw families that were going through just incredible hardship. I buried friends. When I think about hard times in combat, I think about having to call someone who I knew, the wife and the kids, and tell them that, I am incredibly sorry. Your husband, so-and-so isn't coming home. Those are hard times. Those are the things that define us. Getting shot, getting blown up, man, those are opportunities to prove people wrong. Believe me, people told me I couldn't be a Green Beret with one leg. We proved them wrong. People told me I couldn't run marathons, so I ran 20 plus. People said I couldn't run a bike across America, so I did that when we launched our nonprofit. People said you couldn't jump into politics without experience. We did that too. Tell us what we can't do, and we'll show you what we can. That is the American spirit. That's what made us who we are. We're a whole nation of people from other walks of life, all corners.
I love this, and I love the mental part of responding to this. I'll be honest. When I first met you, I had no clue you had an issue in the military where you lost a leg. I had no clue. Never seen you use it. Never seen you talk about it. I see guys walk around with their prosthetic legs and they're sporting them and they're showing them. You go on like it's nothing there. And it's not happened. I was shocked when I heard it. I said, I must have heard that wrong, because I've never seen you make an excuse or say anything about why you couldn't do something because of something that happened to you. That's amazing to keep that positive.
Joe, thank you. I appreciate it. I get to be the Lieutenant Governor of Florida. I was blessed to be a Green Beret and serve among, frankly, people who I still look up to, people who I admire, many of the very best of those that we unfortunately had to bury. And but more than anything else, man, I'm a dad and a husband, and I have two boys at home. They're 13 and 10. And what I do matters because I have to set a model. I have to lead from the front. And I'm a husband. My wife is a 20-year veteran. She was a counterintelligence agent. She actually gave up her career as a senior counterintel agent, all of U.S. Army Special Operations, because I didn't know if I was going to wake up with a knee, no knee, what was going to happen, or if I even have a chance to requalify. So she's
an amazing woman, too. I've met her, and the positive. You always, they say, behind a great man is an amazing woman.
That's right.
You really amplified that story. You do realize you never could be a liberal Democrat, because they would be screaming victim. They would be going, I'm a victim to this, I'm a victim to that. Your whole mentality is what being a conservative American is all about.
Look, I grew up on social welfare, right? I grew up on commodity cheese. I know where it comes from, and I know the trappings of it. I am liberal kryptonite, frankly, I think, and it comes to that because our story is the same. We all come from meager beginnings, but it's what you do with where you're at that matters. The government doesn't owe us solutions. They shouldn't give us solutions. They give us the opportunity that we earn and we fight for each and every day. It's the merit of our strength that puts us forward. And then,
government's always, in my opinion, when I was a county commissioner, chairman of the commission, always said, government's like an HOA. It really should be dealing with the common area things, the common thing, but it should never be telling you individually how to live, how to do things personally, how to function, it shouldn't be funding you.
That's right.
You should be funding it. And you guys have really shown the state. I know this, while y'all have been in office, as I was a county commissioner, I went in the first time, you were in, Governor DeSantis was in. it was a lot easier defending conservative values with a state leadership like you guys above us, because whenever anyone would get mad, they'd look up and go, I'm going to call for our governor to remove you. I said, and I'd hear a day later, Governor DeSantis mentioning the same thing I was talking about. And I said, go ahead and call him. Go ahead.
Yeah, here's his number.
Yeah, we all stand together. This is the way. And it's the same thing with the property taxes. I just saw something. I saw something that really blew me away. And I got to ask you about this. Did this really happen? It was in Jacksonville. It was at the airport, and it was a hologram of the mayor. And the governor did a press conference by it. It was a $75,000 hologram.
Yeah.
It was paid by the taxpayers' money, which I think 90% of it, I don't care if you're liberal or if you're Democrat, Republican, you don't want to see your hard-earned money go for stuff that's silly like that. The governor did a press conference talking about the property tax and how it's being used for stuff like that. And this could be avoided.
Yep.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So Doge, or FAFO here in Florida, as we call it, right? Apparently that's a real thing. That's what's going on in Jacksonville. Deegan has her little thing out there in her hologram and is trying to communicate to the community from that. It's garbage. We got to stop wasting money on this. We got to remind the government that it's not their money. It is the taxpayers' money, and they're entrusted to use that the correct way. We have an addiction not only to spending. Many of these municipalities have an addiction to increasing spending, to increase their spending even more as they go on, right? It's ridiculous. I'm so proud of what we're doing as a state to kind of call people out, hold that accountable. But if we're going to have property tax reform, it's going to come because we are calling out the nonsense. It's the American dream to own your home. And as Governor DeSantis has said repeatedly, if you don't actually own your home if the government can take it at any time, if you're paying rent to the government via property tax.
Right.
To cover homesteaded properties that way, that's absolutely something we're fighting for each and every day, and I think we can get there.
You know, when you see a hologram like that, it's almost something like you'd see on Total Recall or some kind where there's a dictator running the country and they're all corrupt and they're doing stuff. You know, let's face it, that mayor didn't do that for public safety. She didn't do it to communicate. She did it to promote her name for the higher seat that she's going to run for. Let's talk about some of the areas that we specifically air in. So you got the Flagler area, you got the St. John's, you got the Daytona, big coastline issues. You guys have been very proactive in the last 4 to 8 years in helping where local counties can't handle it anymore. You guys go, look, you got to start being friendly to tourism. Tourism is so important. You got to have businesses here. You got to stop all this crazy regulation. It's the same thing I said as a commissioner, but when I left, they went right back to that crazy regulation and they started saying we need to get a moratorium. And I'm going, guys, I've already told you about a moratorium. You're going to stop a source of income. You better make sure you have another source behind it ready. They go, well, we got the property taxes. And I go, that is ridiculous that you're putting this burden on the property taxes. Infrastructure is such an important thing. Sure, you guys have really focused on a state level with that. Tell me a little more.
So the greatest enabler for forward growth is going to be our ability to get where we're going, where we need to be, right? Infrastructure is something we have to continue to invest in. You know, let's think back to Hurricane Ian. We were told it was going to be weeks, months, maybe even up to a year to get the bridge over to Sanibel put in place. It was 3 days. 3 days. And the governor had that in place so we could solve it, get people over there and start getting people to where they needed to be. We've got to stop doing things the way the pundits tell us. We've got to stop believing what folks are telling us because they aren't really doing the math. And that's what I love about Governor DeSantis. He is willing to look at the broad swath of what's going on and say, yeah, I don't think that's right. Show me. And more often than not, you're finding out, all right, yeah, there's actual time savings. If we do it this way versus that way, we can cut through here and get more done. That's what he's done with infrastructure. That's what he's done with transportation out on the I-4 corridor. I mean, my goodness, I'm going over to Orlando and that area next. He has been a godsend in that space. But to your point, tourism, why are people coming here? One, we're free, right? We do things the right way. We have a good government, and our coastlines are incredible.
And it's safe. It's so safe in Florida compared to California.
Low, 50-year low right now. And why is that? Because we have accountability. If you do something wrong, you do a crime, you're going to do the time. You're going to be found guilty, and that's how this goes. All of those things matter. But again, we have to fight for those pieces. The wrong leader coming after Governor DeSantis will change everything about this state. You have to be on the ground. You know, you said something earlier about Rick Scott, and I wanted to come back to it just a little bit as well. Rick's a good friend. He has done amazing things, and he and I have talked a lot in the past. But I love the fact that he talks about the American dream. You know, the left will tell you, oh, it can't be done. It's so hard. It's too far. Guys, the American dream's alive and well. The fact that I am upright and walking is the American dream. The fact that Rick Scott has come from poverty, starting his own business right there with his family, to generationally wealthy, former governor, a senator in these United States is incredible. He was an enlisted man in the Navy as well. That American dream is real. It's not about race, creed, color, gender. It's mindset. It's getting in there and getting things done. That is the key to what we do here in the state of Florida.
Well, Senator Scott and Trump remind me of each other as far as they're at a level of wealth where people say, oh, they ran for those offices because they want to help feed themselves with more wealth. They're at a level of wealth where it doesn't mean anything making money anymore to them. They are now set. And I look up and I go, I've said many times to Senator Scott, why do you do it? Why do you do this? I mean, you don't have to. Why, when they attack him and say stuff? And he looked at me and he said, Joe, because I love our country. And I know if we don't fight, people like you, people like me, we don't fight, people like you as well, Lieutenant Governor. If we don't stand up and fight, we're going to lose our country. I can't imagine this state had that governor, had Ron DeSantis not won the first term, and we would have gotten Gillum, who we found a few months later down in a hotel in Miami on crack. We would have not survived the marijuana ballot that came last year. It would have been devastating. We would have never gotten through COVID. Matter of fact, as a commissioner, I served on national committees. I ended up going to a meeting in Denver, and a guy from Hawaii was there, a commissioner, and he turned around and looked and said, we need money. We're out of money. And I said, what do you mean you guys are out of money? You're a tourism capital of the world. And he goes, well, we just closed down. And I said, well, we didn't in Florida. We still have our income, and we're not going to give you our income. I'm here to bring it back to our state. And he looked at me and he said, yeah, but y'all are climbing over dead bodies and we're not. And I said, listen, I don't know about anybody else. I can tell you on myself, I've not stepped over a body in Florida ever. And I said, the media is so absurd how they do this. You know, when you and I were growing up, we had a thing called the National Enquirer. And whatever the other one was, I can't even remember, Star Magazine or something. And we all laughed because we'd look at it and read the headlines, alien mutated with Robert Redford and had a child. And I'd look up and go, oh my God, what a crazy thing. And they'd show this deformed thing. Our media is that today. Our media is what we used to laugh at and make fun of today.
Well, and the intervention of AI and how that shifts it and how fast things morph and change. I mean, you can spoof somebody's image, their voice quickly. You know, right from what we're doing here, and Lord knows what's going to happen. What's going to happen next? We've got to find a way to get this under control. But again, we've also got to balance constitutional freedoms and everything else. It's a tough one to chart, but no matter what, it's something that we want people to weigh in on. And I'll say this: as conservatives, we need to walk and talk the same thing, right? We need to remember who we are, what we stand for, and what our approach is. We are fighting for American ideals and principles. They're not conservative. They're the very same ones that we grew up with that made America what it is. It's not that we're trying to take us back 1,000 years. We're trying to take us back to specifically where we're at our best, when America is at its best. The dream is real. The opportunity still exists. But we got to fight right now for all that matters before it is gone.
Lieutenant Governor, let's move on a little more west, and from the Daytona and the coastal area of Flagler County and St. John's, we've got Orlando. Orlando is basically has always been a very liberal area. We've got Disney there that Governor DeSantis stood up to and put them back in their place. He quieted them down. They were wanting to be very boisterous until it affected their money. Then all of a sudden the principles didn't matter. It was their money. It's amazing. Yeah. But Orlando being traditionally a very liberal town, the latest news is the sidewalks that were painted with the distraction and the dangerous murals and stuff on the sidewalk, the colors, and it really confused foreigners. Foreigners were coming over here and said they didn't understand what that was. They study how to drive in America, and nobody taught them how to drive with the rainbow stuff everywhere or street signs changed. So you guys stood up strong. Something that you knew you were going to catch some flack back. You stood up strong and started cleaning the street corners up. Tell me a little bit about that and the mindset behind that.
Well, the mindset is simple. We're putting safety first, right? We learned that in the military. Every private in the Army knows that safety comes first. You got to protect our citizens. And to your point, that was an issue. People were distracted by all of this. People were making it more than it is. And, you can't put anything in those crosswalks now. It's black and white. It's very clear. It's going to be what's out there, what's intended by the state. It's got to have the correct markings, one, to assist people who are visiting. That does matter. But it also keeps our people safe. But from a secondary standpoint, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. We're not letting anybody put stuff out there. We're not. But for people to disregard that from the left and continue to run out there and do the wrong thing and do this, say, hey, those rules are for other people. They're not for me because I get to say what I want to say because I'm special. Man, America's done with that crap. We really are. Yeah. Florida is done with that. It's enough of the nonsense. If we remember that out of many, one were some key words our founding fathers really believed in, man, we have so much more that we have in common than that which divides us if we just remember those things.
Right.
We're the American people. We should be proud of our heritage, proud of who we are, and proud of what we can do. But we got to stop being distracted by nonsense and to hold people accountable when they do this. I think absolutely we should. I'm incredibly proud of our stance on this because, again, it is safety first. It's taking the politics out of play, and it's saying just drive, stop politicizing everything. Let's just be good to Florida and leave it better than we got it.
Absolutely. And some of the same people that were upset about that were mocking and making fun of the death of Charlie Kirk. I sat there and thought to myself when I heard that, I said, can you imagine watching another conservative act that way or speak that way about that Pulse nightclub or something like that? None of us, we all were in shock. We all felt bad. We all stood together as a nation. Same thing with the church in Charleston where they shot up the kid came in and shot up a bunch of the black church in Charleston. We all stood together with that. I can't imagine the attitude and actions of a conservative in way the liberals would reply if we acted like they did with Charlie Kirk.
Man, completely unequivocally unacceptable, right? Gut-wrenching. Could you imagine being Erica or her kids having to grow up with that video online and be able to go see what people said? This was a man who his last comments were about God and love, drawing people together for civil discourse, a conversation. Whether he agreed with you or he didn't, he had a conversation out in the open for everyone to be a part of. That's incredible. That's the very best of us. And have people say the things they said and mock his death and say heinous things, they should have been fired. It's an at-will state. If your employers don't support that, then you know what? You're accountable.
Absolutely.
And it happened. And I fully, my heart breaks.
As we wind up here, we're at the top of the hour. We've got to wind up here. I'm going to have you back. We got so many questions and things. We haven't even really begun to talk about Tampa, Hillsborough, County, Sarasota, so much there where the show airs and the people. Yeah. And I think real quick, I'll let you say something about them, but we got about a minute and a half left. What do you have to say to the Tampa and Hillsborough and the Sarasota area?
Well, we are blessed to live in the best county in this state. Now, I get to see all of them, right, traveling around here. But, from where I live up in Odessa down to South Tampa, out to the East County with our strawberry fields and all of that, into South County, guys, we are so blessed to live where we do, right? It's incredible. Rich heritage, rich opportunity. We're a conservative county now. That's pretty incredible. But, we got to keep fighting for those things that matter. We're a law and order state. We're number one among all states for new business development. This is a hot place to be. Together, we've put Tampa Bay on the map for years and years and years to come. But you know what? We got to keep fighting. I have kids. They're 10 and 13, and that's what this is all about. Leaving it better than we got it and passing those things we love onto our kids. That's what we do in Hillsborough County. It's Military Bay, USA, and we're here to make that a thing, right?
Now, I got to ask you this as we wind down the show. I've got to ask you, how do we continue with Governor DeSantis's momentum? We need you. Have you considered what are you going to do here? I got to ask you,
Joe. That's a great question. So I'll tell you, I'm in the final stages of kind of making my decisions whether we're going to jump in or not. Blessed to be the lieutenant governor. My family is supportive. Our friends, our family group, the people around us who know us best are very supportive. Now it's making sure that my approach to leadership is, as you said, this boots on the ground, in your face, doing things as a lieutenant governor style is what I think is best for the state, because it's not about me. Man, I'm tired of politicians making it about themselves. It's about we the people. We got to keep Florida free and on the straight and narrow and pushing forward, because when Florida leads, America wins.
Well, I got to say this too. You are doing your job and running all over the state And if you consider that, I don't see you backing off your job at all.
No,
while others are, I don't even know what position they're in anymore. It's like they've abandoned their post and now they're just running for Congress. And I don't want to mention any names, but excuse me, not Congress. They're running for governor. So I might have given that away a little bit, but it's getting a little ridiculous there. And it's like, I said to myself the other day, what is he? Has he gone to Congress anytime soon? He's still got that position. So that's a unique thing to see. And see what's going on. Lieutenant Governor Collins, I really appreciate you coming by today. And I know our listeners have loved this. We'd love to have you back on.
I would love to be on. Thank you for having me.
And remember, listeners, these guys are why we are the greatest state in the greatest country to live, work, shop, and play. We have got to continue to keep leaders like this in place, fighting for us. Just a few years ago, this state could have taken the worst turn we've ever seen in this country, and this country would have collapsed had we not had the great leadership from Governor DeSantis and the administration he picked and continues to pick, and the Senate and the State House that we had in this state. We've got to keep them strong. Lieutenant Governor, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jim. God bless.
Have a great weekend.
You've been listening to The Joe Mullins Show. Find out more and engage with Joe by visiting the website, themullinscompanies.com. That's themullinscompanies.com.